Israel and Hezbollah trading blows throughout the night as Middle East nations continue to test the fragile Iran ceasefire deal.
So this comes ahead of this weekend's high-stakes direct talks in Pakistan, led by Vice President JD Vance.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yinks is live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Direct talks are set to take place in Islamabad, Pakistan this weekend, led by Vice President JD Vance, along with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. President Trump overnight issuing a new warning for the Iranian regime on Truth Social. He said in part, quote, all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. The president went on to say, which is, if for any reason it is not, which is highly unlikely, then the shooting starts. Now, all of this is taking place as eyes remain focused on the Strait of Hormuz. Yesterday, we understand that just 4 vessels were able to pass through the strait. Despite the fact this is part of the agreement, the Iranians are still trying to use this chokehold as leverage at the negotiating table. Yesterday, Vice President JD Vance sending a message directly to the Iranian regime.
I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. They're reopening the straits. We have a ceasefire. And frankly, if they break their end of the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences.
Not just Iran, but we're also focused on Lebanon, where yesterday dozens of Israeli strikes targeted Hezbollah positions there. Many of the targeting took place in the Dacha neighborhood of southern Beirut. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday talked not just about Lebanon, but also the broader goals of the operation.
We have more goals to complete, and we will achieve them either by agreement or by renewing the fighting. We are prepared to return to fighting at any moment necessary. Our finger is on the trigger.
A senior Israeli official telling Fox News that yesterday 200 Hezbollah combatants were killed in those dozens of strikes across Lebanon. We also understand there were many civilians among the dead. Guys?
So, Trey, in terms of incoming rockets and drones today, has there been anything in the last few hours outside that? I know that Hezbollah hit the north, but has Iran targeted Israel?
Iran has not targeted Israel today, but Hezbollah continues the fire toward northern Israel. Just last hour, there were dozens of alerts across the north amid new incoming Hezbollah rocket fire.
So what's the reason that we've only seen a few ships go through after the ceasefire? Because the whole point of this was to make sure that the strait is open.
Look, the Iranians have a history of playing games at the negotiating table, and this is a major challenge for the Trump administration. Yesterday, we heard the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, talk about the details of this negotiation. They are sending an American delegation to Islamabad this weekend to speak directly with the Iranian regime and try to get this deal done. Remember, right now we're in a 2-week ceasefire. This is not necessarily the end of Operation Epic Fury. It's a chance at an off-ramp. But already the Iranians are starting to go back on the agreements that they made and these commitments they made to American negotiators to temporarily end this conflict. Yesterday, we heard the Speaker of Iran's parliament saying that the issue of enriched uranium will be something that the Iranians will maintain. We also heard President Trump yesterday saying that the Iranians have agreed to work with the Americans to allow an operation inside of Iran to dig up and get rid of the enriched uranium. And so there's still a major disconnect there. And today, there was a major statement from the atomic chief in Iran, who said the enemy, quote, won't succeed in restricting Iran's enrichment program. And again, at this point, the Iranians do not look serious in their efforts to reach an agreement with the United States. And so this weekend will be incredibly consequential. And if the Iranians continue to go back on these commitments that they made to the Americans as it relates to enriched uranium and also access in the Strait of Hormuz, we are likely looking at a situation where the region returns to war.
Yeah, so Trey, can you put it into perspective? Because you know, the Israelis don't have the luxury to talk about the world global oil market. They're talking about their safety at this point because they're so close. It seems like their mission objectives are different.
Yes, and today we have seen less strikes against the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, but Israeli strikes are expected to continue. And I spoke with an Israeli official yesterday who described the connection between the Islamic regime and Hezbollah. Remember, this is their largest proxy in the region. And this official said that if Iran is able to back out of negotiations by pointing to the Israeli strikes against Hezbollah, then they are controlling the terror axis that they previously built across the region, not just with Hezbollah, but also with the Houthis in Yemen and Iran-backed Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias. And this raises a very important point in the region. Iran does not have leverage or control of the situation right now. And so they're going to look for any sort of opportunity to say that the United States and Israel are not adhering to the terms that were reached before. But President Trump was very clear yesterday. The Iranians are trying to put out disinformation already. And yesterday, we reported on a 10-point plan, and I'm told by a U.S. official that that was actually an old plan that the Iranians put out because they wanted people to talk about it and try to put their perspective forward. And so we are correcting that today, and we spoke with U.S. officials yesterday who said that is not the latest plan. There is an updated plan that the president agreed to, and despite these efforts by the Iranian regime to try to spin negotiators, this will be incredibly consequential this weekend to see whether or not they are serious about creating a good faith deal.
Wow. I mean, my gosh. Yesterday we were talking about the 10-point plan. Now we're learning that that might not be the final plan. And in the original plan was we will continue to enrich uranium. The president obviously said that is a non-starter. That's not part of this plan. But then when the plan was printed in English, the 10-point plan, it didn't include that. So this is just a mess.